Well, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. Don't matter what time it is, because of course, time's is the construct that we created. And the truth is, you are here right now because you're meant to be here right now. It's your call. You planned this. You're ready for this. You're tired of looking at the external, waiting for something to come, and you're finally going, really isn't anything coming now, is there? So let's take a deep breath for a moment. Let's close our eyes. Let's take a deep breath and hold it. And let go. Let those shoulders relax. And take another breath. And hold it. Let go. Let that jaw unclench. Let's put our hands on our heart. And let's just say, the body, the mind, the soul, being of the fallen mindset, the shadow matrix, we say deactivate, turn off. Now we speak to the divine, the original blueprint of our original designs, creator more. We say activate, fully on. And take a breath. And hold. And let go. Let's just let ourselves arrive and be here completely. Not halfway. Not distracted. And please, let's not perform, okay? Let's take all those masks and toss them away because we're already recognizing this has not been helping us in any way, shape, or form. Yo, American Stoner, good to see you. Let's just be here. Because this morning what I want to teach is not for the part of you that is already, knows how to stay busy, but how to stay defended or how to stay loud or how to stay distracted. No, this is for the part of you that is tired. The part of you that has spent so long waiting. You've been waiting for healing. Waiting for someone to come and just get you out of this mess. Waiting for clarity. And then you've been waiting for rescue, and you've been waiting for someone to come, waiting for life to change even. You've been waiting for love to arrive in the exact form you imagined. Waiting for permission, waiting for validation, and waiting for relief. And maybe the hardest thing to admit is this. Sometimes the deepest pain is not abandonment by others, by the way. I know we project it and we think it is. But it's actually the realization that you abandoned yourself by waiting for that right person to finally come because all the others just didn't pan out. The hardest moment in life is not always when people leave. Sometimes it's when the illusion leaves. The illusion that someone is coming to save you, even. The illusion that one day the perfect person will even arrive. They'll be here. They'll see you. They'll help you get out. But the illusion that eventually, sometimes outside of you, will finally do the work that belongs to you. And when that illusion breaks, it can be brutal. Because you're left there sitting in there and you realize, I was the prisoner and the prison guard this whole time. I had the keys. Because the mind wants comfort, right? It needs sometimes that external, hey, you got this, it's okay. Hey, man. Because the mind wants, and the ego wants delay. And the wound self wants to believe there is still some external force that will come and remove the burden. But there is a deeper truth there. No one is coming to do your inner work. Hey, man. No one is coming to think your thoughts. No. And no one is coming to feel your feelings for you. No one is coming to face your shadows for you either. No one is coming to become your truth for you. When that may sound harsh at first. Thanks, man. It's Baby Yoda. But reality is liberating at the same time, because the moment you stop waiting for rescue, you recover responsibility. And the moment you recover responsibility, you recover power. And that is where the real teaching of this begins, because not in blame, not in shame, not in self-condemnation, in responsibility. Because responsibility does not mean that everything was your fault. No. It means that from this moment forward, your life is in your freaking hands. Yeah. And that changes everything. We all have this rescue fantasy some point in our lives. If we haven't done this journey, is the human being carries that what psychology could call the rescue fantasy. This is the inner story that says, one day someone will arrive. Someone will understand. Someone will finally see me. Someone will finally take away these burdens I carry, and someone will make it all make sense to me. Someone will tell me I am enough, and someone will show me how to live, and I can live. And someone will save me from myself, because I don't know what I'm doing. And of course, there's nothing wrong with wanting love, nothing wrong with wanting help, nothing wrong with wanting support. I mean, we are all relational beings. We need each other. We heal in connection, and we grow in community. We are not meant to do everything alone, but there is a difference between healthy interdependency and unconscious dependency. Healthy connection says, I receive support, but I remain responsible. I'll get my help, but I'm the one who put myself here. Unconscious dependency says, if something else does not rescue me, I cannot move. And that second position becomes a prison. Because while you are waiting, life is passing. And while you're waiting, the body is aging. And while you are waiting, your gifts remain dormant. And while you're waiting, your voice stays muted. And while you're waiting, your soul keeps knocking from inside the cage, and you cannot build a life around waiting now, can you? Yo, man, how's it going? Waiting is not a life strategy. No, it's a pause that becomes a pattern. It really does, And it becomes a personality. It becomes a way of being. And at some point, you have to ask, what has this waiting cost me? What opportunities did I postpone? What truth did I avoid? What part of me did I not develop? What life did I not live because I kept expecting someone else to arrive first? External locus of control. It gives us a useful idea here, is that external locus of control. That means a person tends to believe that the forces determining their life are mostly outside of their agency. Yep. And when someone has an external locus of control, they often think, I can't do much until something changes outside of me. My life depends on other people. My future depends on circumstances. My healing depends on someone else's behavior. And when that becomes the dominant orientation, the self weakens. Not because the person is weak by nature, but because their energy keeps flowing outward instead of inward. Every time you believe your freedom is in someone else's hands, you surrender your own capacity. And every time you think once they change, then I'll be okay, you postpone your becoming. And every time you think once I get an apology, then I can heal, you put your healing in someone else's pocket. Every time you think once I get chosen, then I'll feel worthy, you make your worth conditional. And conditional worth is fragile. It can be taken, delayed, denied, distorted. So the question becomes, what if worth is not something you do or you receive from outside? What if it is worth is something you recognize within yourself? It's called the mirror. One of the most difficult things to the human being can do is to face the mirror honestly. Because the mirror does not flatter. It does not negotiate. It does not protect your excuses. And it does not cooperate with your image. It simply reflects. And reflection is dangerous in the ego. Because the ego wants control over the story. And it wants to appear correct. And it wants to appear wounded but innocent. And it wants to appear busy but blameless. So it's going to project the other person's stuff as much as it can. And it wants to focus on everyone else's flaws. So it does not have to meet its own. That is why people gossip, for crying out loud. I laugh at the gossipers. I'm like, oh, you're showing yourself. You got a lot of hidden darkness. You're sitting there talking about someone else right now, aren't you? You can't even talk about your own self. That is why people obsess over others. That is why people watch, compare, criticize, and judge. Not always because they are cruel. Sometimes because they are avoiding themselves. It is easier to walk about what everyone else is doing than ask, what am I doing? What am I avoiding? What am I defending? What am I refusing to see? The mirror is not punishment. The mirror is an invitation. And it says, here is your life. Here's your pattern. Here's your fear. Here's your wound. Here's your avoidance. Here is your truth. Will you look? You're finding the truth is uncomfortable. I know truth can be uncomfortable, right? Dude, I'll tell you, when I started asking myself these questions, it made me really uncomfortable. But man, at the end of the day, holy crap. What was the biggest thing in my death in hospice when I left this body and I was into the face-to-face of all existence? There I was, mirroring in a mirror at myself. And one of the biggest things I heard is that you are not who you think you are, and I am not what you think I am, was what I heard from creation itself. And I discovered it was definitely not at all what I thought it was, because all of a sudden when I gazed and finally looked in the mirror, it was me. That was it. So the question is, will you look? Will you look and see? Jung and unconscious, Carl Jung gave us one of the most powerful warnings of psychology. Until you make unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that means what you do not face does not disappear. It operates in the background. You can put all the masks you want in your life and it's going to bust through them all. It shapes your choices. It repeats through the relationships. It distorts your perception. It narrows your life. And then because you cannot see it clearly, you call the repeated pattern destiny. But what if fate is sometimes just unexamined, unconscious material? What if the same relationship keeps happening because the same wound keeps choosing? What if the same emotional collapse keeps occurring because the same inner story keeps running? What if the same sense of being trapped is not coming from the world alone, but from the hidden inner self? Right? Know thyself. course, it makes the noise. It's just whether you heard it or not. I didn't have to get wasted. I had to face dying and leaving this existence in front of me and recognize that I wasted entire years looking for the approval of others and seeking an external God when the whole time it was about myself. So what if the same, what if the same relationships keeps happening because the same wounds keep choosing? What if the same emotional collapse keep occurring because the same inner story keeps running? And what if the same sense of being trapped is not coming from the world but alone, but the hidden inner structure that has never been confronted? Jung understood that self has a shadow, a rejected, hidden, disowned part. And that shadow does not go away because you ignore it or because you find something to put blame on. It grows stronger, as a matter of fact, in the dark. And so at some point, a person must turn inward to say, I will no longer exile myself. I will no longer live as a stranger to my own soul. I will no longer confuse self-avoidance with peace. And that moment is painful, but it is also the beginning of freedom. Neuroplasticity changes now. Let's bring neurosciences. The brain is not fixed, it is adaptive, and it changes through repetitive attention, emotion, and behavior. And this is called neuroplasticity. And that means every habit you repeat, not only sometimes something you do, it's something you become wired to do. So every thought pattern you revisit creates pathways, grooves in your brains. And every emotion reaction you rehearse becomes more automatic. And every time you choose avoidance, the brain learns avoidance. Every time you choose blame, the brain learns blame. But every time you choose helplessness, the brain learns helplessness. But the reverse is also true. Every time you choose responsibility, you strengthen agency. Every time you choose honesty, you strengthen clarity. And every time you choose discipline, you strengthen self-trust. And every time you choose presence, you strengthen regulation. And every time you choose truth, you strengthen freedom. See, you are not trying harder. You are training your nervous system to reorganize a mind. You are reshaping a life. And this matters because many people think transformation is mostly emotional inspiration. But real transformation is often repetition. It is a repeated decision to stay with discomfort. It is a repeated decision not to run back into the old patterns just because they feel familiar. The familiar is not the same as true. In Gnostic traditions spoke of radical seriousness about inner awakening. Not about accepting an idea, not about following a doctrine, but about direct knowing. Gnosis means knowing, inner seeing. The recognition that truth is not merely out there to be believed, but in here to be realized. And this is why the Gnostic's perspective is so powerful for this teaching, because the Gnostics understood that the human being often lives in forgetfulness, in sleep, in illusion, in identification with false structures, and they saw that people can become trapped in false names, false identities, false authorities, false saviors. And the awakening process begins when the person remembers, I am not what I have been told I am. I am not only the wound. I am not only the mask. I am not only the story. I am not only the fear. There is something deeper, something divine, something real, something essential. And the famous line of the Gospel of Thomas is this beautifully: if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. And that is not passive theology, that is active revelation. It is not saying that nothing exists beyond you. It is saying that what liberates you must become embodied in you. Truth must be lived, not only admired. Nature as teachers, look at nature. I mean, nature never waits for permission to become what it is. A seed does not ask to the soil if it is ready. It breaks open anyway. It just does it. And breaking open is not gentle. It is often dark and pressurized, unseen, uncelebrated. But the seed knows something the ego forgets. Growth requires rupture. And a tree does not become strong because it avoids a storm. It becomes strong because it learns to stand through them. And a river does not become a river by waiting for the perfect path. It carves its way through resistance. And the ocean does not apologize for its depth. The mountain does not apologize for its height. The stars do not ask to be witnessed before they shine. Nature is not waiting. Nature is becoming. And so are you. And even when it feels your life is paused, something in you is still moving, still breathing, still forming, still reorganizing, still preparing. But you must cooperate with your becoming. You cannot remain the posture of waiting forever, the pain of responsibility. There's pain that comes with seeing clearly. Because when you realize no one is coming for you, you realize how much power you gave away, how much of your life you placed in other people's hands, how often you let your mood, your worth be direction, and your sense for self determine external. And what is painful to see is not because you are bad, but because you are human. You can't believe you found Surrender Scoring. I'm glad you found it. We all want to be held. We all want to be guided. And we all want to be reassured. But eventually there comes a moment when comfort cannot be the highest value. And at some point, truth must outrank comfort. And at some point, self-honesty must outrank fantasy. And at some point, your future must matter more than your avoidance. And when that happens, the pain becomes useful. Because pain is not only a sign of injury, it is also a sign of awakening. The discomfort you feel when you stop lying to yourself is the discomfort of contracting, leaving the body. It's a contraction leaving the body, that's it. It is the discomfort of an old identity losing the grip. So it's losing the grip of the discomfort of the false self being asked to step aside. And that discomfort is not the enemy. It is a threshold, responsibility, and freedom. Existential philosophy says something profound. You are responsible for your life. Not in a simplistic sense that every event was your fault, but in the deeper sense that you must choose what you do with what happens from here on out. You may not control everything that shaped you, but you may control who left. You may not control what happened, but you may not control the wounds you inherited, but you do participate in what you become. And that is where freedom enters. Freedom is not absent of pain. Freedom is not absent of difficulty. Freedom is not absent of responsibility. Freedom is the willingness to meet your life without abandoning yourself. To say this happened, I am here. I will not disappear. I will not outsource my becoming. I will not make my life dependent on someone else's awakening. And that is power. Not domination, not perfection. The power, the steady kind, the grounded kind, the kind that does not need applause, the kind that does not collapse when not chosen, the kind that remains the prison and the key. See, there is a haunting truth here is that you can become both the prison guard and the prisoner. You can be the one holding yourself back, and you can be the one who keeps the door shut. You can be the one repeating the fear, and you can be the one enforcing limits. You can be the one saying not to your own growth, and you can also be the one who says, open the door. And that is the mystery of consciousness. The same awareness that keeps you trapped can also liberate you. The same mind that creates the mask can also dissolve it. And the same body that learned fear also learns safety. And the same voice that criticizes also blesses. And the same person who abandoned themselves can also return. And return is the word. Because this is not about becoming someone else. It's about coming back to who you were all before the fear became identity. One of the deepest wounds many people carry for the hunger for approval. They want to be seen. They want to be affirmed. They want someone to say, you are enough. You are good. You are chosen. You matter. And it is understandable. But if you do not learn to give yourself the approval you keep seeking, you will remain dependent on the unstable moods of the world. People will disappoint you. People will misunderstand you, and people will project onto you, and people will withdraw, people will change, and that is life. So the question is not whether external approval will fail you. It will at some point. The question is whether you can become a source of the inner encouragement. Can you speak to yourself with strength? Can you bless yourself without lying? Can you approve of your effort while you still growing? And can you stand beside yourself instead of against yourself? Because self-approval is not arrogance. It is stabilization. It is the quiet inner voice that says, keep going. Do the work. Tell the truth. Don't betray yourself now. You can handle this. You are stronger than you think, and that inner voice can become a lifeline. The inner parent. You're still waiting for an inner parent they never received. They want someone to say, hey, it's okay. You're safe now. You don't have to be afraid. You're not too much. You're not broken. You can rest. And in many cases, part of the healing is learning to become the voice that was missing. Not to deny the pain. To recognize it's always been there. Not to ignore. To realize that you matter. And you've held the keys this whole time. Let's not forget that. And that's beautiful. That's the beauty of it all. So peace and love. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I gotta go and get myself ready for a procedure this morning. See you guys next time.